Hi everyone, and we're back with more Sword of Convallaria. So it's been a little over a month since Sword of Convallaria launched, and it's been a lot of fun. I was actually waiting for the revenue data to come out because I was really curious to see how well Sword of Convallaria did in its first month. After all, it's a single game in a highly competitive mobile gaming market, all vying for you to be a part of their player base, and most importantly, for you to spend money in their game. The revenue a game gets at launch is a strong indicator of what the future holds for that game. In this case, Sword of Convallaria. The developers and publishers can use this information to make necessary adjustments to their game so they can increase player retention and make changes to their marketing in order to get more people to play their game. So was Sword of Convallaria successful? Well, according to Sensor Tower data, Sword of Convallaria made $8.55 million globally in its first month. So, in August of 2024. This may not be the colossal revenue we've seen in games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, but Sword of Convallaria still made a respectable profit during its launch month. Keep in mind, Sensor Tower data doesn't take Steam revenue into account, and Sword of Convallaria has a strong presence on Steam. I know I personally play Sword of Convallaria mainly on Steam, and lots of other people do too. The estimated revenue for Sword of Convallaria on Steam is roughly $2 million, and possibly as high as $3 million or more based on the estimates from Gamalytic. This is a website that predominantly estimates revenue and other relevant data for Steam games. So the total revenue for Sword of Convallaria in its launch month could be roughly $11 million, if not more. Keep in mind, these websites are estimating revenue, so the values could be more or they could be less. However, Sword of Convallaria's launch revenue isn't bad considering the game had already launched in China prior to its global release. During its initial launch with the release of the Chinese server in 2023, Sword of Convallaria had an estimated revenue of over $25 million during its first month after release. This estimate is actually for the first 38 days after the game's release, but it's much more in line with the amount of revenue you expect to see during a game's launch. Take Alchemy Stars for example. It's another niche game that I've covered on my channel. Alchemy Stars launched on June 17, 2021, and in 13 days, it made $17 million. Think of it this way, even niche games can turn a large profit. There are a lot of factors that feed into the level of success of a game's launch. For instance, a lot of gaming companies, including the companies running Alchemy Stars, any of the Hoyoverse games, Wuthering Waves, and so on, choose to launch their games worldwide, rather than launching their game in one place and a year or two later launching it globally, or incrementally launching to different regions. One of the benefits of launching worldwide is it inflates the game's launch revenue, which ends up making a much more powerful statement competitively. It even generates more news articles and videos about a game's success and revenue, which in turn also makes a game stand out overall to the gacha gaming community. This makes people curious and willing to download a game and give it a try, just to see what the game's about, and to see if it's worth the hype. Just think about if Sword of Convallaria launched for everyone at once. The game's revenue would have been closer to over $30 million if we take into account the Chinese server revenue at launch and the global server's revenue at launch. Now that isn't too bad at all. That's a lot higher than $11 million. In fact, that's a highly competitive value for revenue. It would have made Sword of Convallaria fall within the top 10 revenue earners for August of 2024 in the Sensor Tower data, which wouldn't have been a small accomplishment considering the big games listed in the top 10. You have your Hoyoverse games, Genshin Impact, Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero. You have games like AFK Journey and Fate Granddaughter. Arknights is even in the top 10, and even Arknights is a niche game, and it's been out for years. Actually, most of the games on this top 10 list have been out for years, and they're still earning high revenue. Had Sword of Convallaria launched worldwide, it was possible that they could have made enough revenue to be in the top 10 revenue earners of the Sensor Tower data. That's based on the revenue earned at launch for the Chinese server and for the global server. The revenue earned on the Chinese server's launch may have differed in 2024 simply because Zenless Zone Zero launched not long before Sword of Convallaria, so the revenue Sword of Convallaria earned may have been cut into by Zenless Zone Zero, which is what potentially happened for the global launch. Zenless Zone Zero was one of the most highly anticipated gacha games this year, and it was released earlier in the month of July, which may have cut into the potential revenue Sword of Convallaria could have made during its global launch. Again, all of the games on this list are vying for your money, and it's an extremely competitive market, and some of those companies are billion-dollar companies putting massive budgets towards marketing their games. I suspect moving forward, Sword of Convallaria will see more revenue in upcoming months when highly anticipated character banners get released. You should also keep in mind, a lot of people re-rolled their accounts to get the perfect start, which may have cut into the revenue Sword of Convallaria could have earned in its initial month during global launch. There's lots of highly anticipated banners for characters players have been waiting for, so it will be interesting to see what happens, and if Sword of Convallaria will see a boost in revenue during months when these highly anticipated banners are released. $11 million in revenue for a game is nothing to scoff at. The devs and publishers for Sword of Convallaria seem pleased with the success level and reception their game received during global launch. I'm guessing they've already made back what they spent to make the game in the last year, after the launch of the Chinese server, and now with the launch of the global server. They've likely already been getting a profit. It's unknown what the budget was for development and marketing of Sword of Convallaria. I tried looking up information about this, but I couldn't find anything. It takes a lot of money to make a game. Look at Genshin Impact. The budget for developing and marketing for Genshin Impact when the game was released was $100 million, and it's been another $200 million every month to run and expand the game. And MiHoYo made back $100 million within weeks after launching Genshin Impact. But MiHoYo's games are a bit different and a bit of an anomaly, and Genshin Impact has remained one of the most expensive games to develop. Now, do I think Sword of Convallaria took that kind of money to develop? I would say no, and I don't mean that in a derogatory or negative way. I also don't think it was all that cheap to make either, considering they got the composer who did the Final Fantasy Tactics music to do the music for Sword of Convallaria. I doubt that was very cheap. That probably was a big portion of their budget. Again, I wasn't able to find any information about the budget for how much they spent to make and market Sword of Convallaria. But since the devs and publishers seem happy with the results, that makes me think they've already been turning a profit. Sword of Convallaria has already had a number of milestones. It's been downloaded millions of times, earned millions of dollars between its initial launch in 2023 and globally in 2024. And the devs are pumping out content like crazy, tons of events, lots of rewards, and expansion of game modes like the Story and Spiral of Destinies. Of course, the game's launch hasn't been without controversy, but I'm not going to go into that in this video. I think it will be really interesting to see how well Sword of Convallaria performs revenue-wise now that the honeymoon period for the game is over. There's lots of content, events, and character banners coming up, so I'm looking forward to seeing what the game has in store for us next. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.